Thank you for introducing me here. So, like he said, I'm Jordan. Today, we're going to be doing sort of a back and forth between showing you examples of things and sort of introducing ideas. So, anyone is welcome to jump in at any point. You can unmute your mic. I'll try and keep the chat open. So, hopefully, I can see some stuff going on in there if people are not unmuting. And so, I guess let's get into it. So first things first, I'm going to post in the chat a link to the Google Drive. And so here you can actually find what the completed document will look like and the presentation as well. So if there are people that were sort of uncomfortable with the filming process and just wanted to head out, you're welcome to sort of examine that and then return to the video once they end up posting it. So today we're going to be going over a few things. I'm going to tell you about myself. I guess that was pretty much already done with the introduction. I'm going to go over the tools I'm going to be using today. And then we'll sort of have three sort of sections that we're going to explore. The first one is loosely the idea of file structure and staying organized. The second is hard examples on how to put certain components into your document. And then the last one is sort of tying it all together and finishing things up. So as I was introduced, I am currently in the medical physics program here at Ryerson. I have a background in doing audio engineering stuff, so I like to explore music and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm also interested in photography. So today we're going to be using two tools. You could use other tools in place of these two tools, but these are ones I'm comfortable with. So Overleaf is a program for actually editing LaTeX. So it's online, and you can kind of think of this as the Google Docs version of LaTeX editing. It has a bunch of awesome features. You can share things, you can collaborate, which is probably the best part. So if you're working in tandem with another researcher, they could fill in one section and you could be working on another section at the same time. And the other thing I'm going to introduce is Zotero. So this is a free reference manager. And so these things are really useful because they allow you to catalog and organize your references so that you have them in a way that you could put all that information into your citations and references when you're done. And they're super cool because you can also organize things in folders on a project by project basis. So then you can stay on top of, oh, okay, I have all this information about this paper I read. I want to cite it. So now let's include it in the LaTeX document later on. So as I said, Overleaf, it's essentially a Google Drive for this sort of stuff. You get to store stuff on the cloud, which is great. So you can get it anywhere. You can collaborate, and it actually has the editor built in. So you don't have to be switching between something that's sort of a sharing functionality and something that is actually editing the document. So first things first, why don't we hop over to Overleaf, and I can just show you what the main page looks like. So here you can find a bunch of things. You can find various documents. You can see I have other papers in here that are on the go. You can share with people. You can actually download the files over here so that you can make sure you can have them as a backup and all sorts of things. On the left here, you'll notice that you can even organize things in folders, which is super useful in my opinion, because you can just stay on top of all your papers and make sure that you know which ones you're working on currently and things like that. So for the people that aren't super familiar maybe with this sort of interface, it's pretty straightforward. Most of the buttons you might look for are exactly where you might think you would find them. So I could make a new folder here. And once a folder is created, I can actually go to a given paper. And so I've highlighted this one that we're going to be working on today. And under the under the add folder section, you can actually add it to a new folder. So in this case, I actually have put it into folders. So there's a lot of versatility here that you can really control how you stay on top of things. And maybe some of the folks in the call right here are used to doing this sort of thing with their Gmail and things like that. So let's go ahead and jump right into the document we're going to be looking at today. So when you open up your thing here, the first thing of note you're going to want to notice is this recompile button. So for people who are used to coding, compiling is putting the document together. Oh, someone has a question here. What is the difference with a new project and a new folder? Okay, so let's jump back to the previous section. So projects are the actual document you're working on. And a folder is just a way to tag them to organize on the side here. So as we see here, this is a project that I'm working on, and you can think of project interchangeable with the word document. So let me know if that sort of answers your question. And I'll hop back over to our document. Okay, great. So like I said, this is one of the most useful things to get acquainted with here in your document. The recompiling is what makes you able to see the changes you're doing. So as you add code to sections here, it won't actually change in real time until you've hit that recompile button. And this is also bound to the Control S. So people who are really comfortable with hitting Control S to save things all the time, that will recompile things. And from here, you also have the things you might be already accustomed with Word or Google Docs. You have the ability to share, to export. You can chat in real time through the side here. And there are also features to be able to have markup. So you can see if you turn on your track changes here under the review section, it allows you the ability to see who changed what, and it will store that on the go. So I don't currently have that on since I'm the only one editing this document, but that might be something you want to turn on and monitor as multiple people work on different sections, so you know what sort of wording gets changed and things like that. So real quick, let's move back to the presentation so I can outline a few more things before we jump into the nitty gritty. So Zotero, as I said before, is a reference manager. It has both a desktop application and a plugin or extension for your favorite browser you can use. And so that allows you to, as you find things on the web, to use the Chrome extension or to then add it to the desktop client if the desktop client is open. So this is a pretty great tool because you, as you can see on the image here, you end up getting a bunch of information that you will be using for citations, put right into this file manager. And from there, you can organize things into folders, much like I described how you might do in Overleaf. And you can then also export a collection of these articles to put into your LaTeX file. So as I said, there's kind of three main areas we're going to look at here. We're going to look at file structure, the stuff you're going to be putting in it, the content, and then sort of how we tie it all together with a title page, references, and SI, and things like that. So first things first, let's look at organizing ourselves and getting things in a way so that you don't feel overwhelmed and you don't have a sprawling document that you don't know where something is if you want to return to it in a year's time. So we can just note a few of the things. For the people that were just looking at the Overleaf document I was working in, there was a sort of section for managing the files within that project on the left-hand side, and I've taken a screen capture here. And so within that, you can, again, I'm going to beat you over the head with this, but you can make folders, which is what's going to keep you organized. And then there are also the ability to upload images in the form of PDFs or JPEGs, things like that. I will recommend to everyone who is working in the sciences that you should learn how to export your graphs and images in PDF format when you're working on things, because it will allow your images to scale. So you can zoom into sections without it becoming very pixely if it's saved as a vector PDF. And then lastly, in this sort of section, you can notice that there are two other file types here, ones that end in .cls and .bib. So .bib is the references that get exported from Zotero I was describing earlier, and .cls is the class. And so the purpose of class files is to organize all of your font attribution and different things that you're used to seeing in Word. So when we're working in Word, we're used to clicking on maybe making something title or heading 1, and the font changes and it gets big, or maybe it changes colors or different attributes like that. So this class file, you can put in all of those attributes that get attached to different naming conventions, and then you can use them later in your .tex file, which is LaTeX. So the first thing we're going to be creating is the main .tex file. When you create a new project on Overleaf, it will create this file automatically, and it will just be sort of blank to begin with. And this is the file that Overleaf chooses to compile from. So when we're hitting that compile or that Control S I was showing earlier, that it is what is going to be fed to the final output that you see on screen. So it's pretty useful for controlling the flow of your document. It's where you want to insert the other components into and sort of tie it all together. And some of the useful things we're going to be exploring is the document class, which is for loading the .cls file I just spoke of, beginning tags and end tags for the document, inputs, which allow you to pull in sections I will be showing, the new page command. So for folks that are really happy working in Word, this is like doing Control Enter, where you force anything after that point to be on a new page, no matter what you do ahead of it. So you can keep things starting in new pages as you would expect. And then unskip, which I will discuss when we hop over. So first things first, why don't we hop over to our thing here, and let's make a new one from scratch. So as someone asked earlier, you can make projects within here by hitting the new project button here. We're just going to make a blank one here. There are a bunch of templates you can have, which will sort of get you set up with different .cls files, things like that. But we're just going to do blank here because we're going to be exploring things. And this is, we will just call this LaTeX example 2, because I already have one there. So immediately it's going to actually bring you into the editor page we just saw earlier. If you want to then tag it, as I was showing you in the overall level, you have to actually go back and do it. But since I've already showed you that, we can skip that for now. Increase the font size. We'll see if does this increase the font size for you guys? Oh, perfect. So for people that maybe want to do that for themselves without changing any properties of this, I was just using Control plus the scroll wheel, and that will actually just change the zoom on your browser. Sorry if that's a little redundant, but thought I might as well explain all the things I do as I go through it. So first things first, as I said, this structure will look very similar to how things are coded for HTML if anyone's ever sort of tinkered around with making web pages. The whole idea of things is that you start things with opening tags, you put some content between them, and then typically close them with an end tag of the same type. So here we can see it starts the begin document, and we can see it does end document. So you can see that that kind of tells it that the whole, what lives in the document should live between these two tags. So a lot of things we'll see as we go through this will be that sort of type of thing where it opens and it closes. Some things where we input or we just declare something don't always have this. So examples of this is use package, document class. You can see these don't actually have a close on things. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this. And let's pull in the content I created last time for that other document we were working on. First thing you're going to notice now that I've brought in a bunch of content is in this coding language, the %sign is for commenting. In Python, it might be hashtag. So you're going to use this to put notes in. How can we bring in the content so we can follow along? Okay, great question. So you know what? Why don't we go ahead and delete everything in here? So you can see I have nothing. So this will help you see how you might do this for yourself. So up here on the top left side of the sort of files section, you can do upload. And here you can drag stuff in. So the files I shared with everyone, they're actually zipped. So you're going to have to unzip them to be able to follow along. So I'm just going to quickly do that because I have that accessible to me. And then you can highlight all of the files you want to drag in. So I'm dragging them in currently from my desktop right now and drag them in. One unfortunate thing is folders do not get preserved in this process. So we can see all these files came in, but you'll notice there was none of the actual folders that I was using to stay organized. So first things first, let's create those two folders I had. For the people that don't remember what I had a folder for figures, which I can create. And then unfortunately, if you're used to clicking on something and then, oh, you can, someone's saying that you can upload the zip file. So even better, you can just drag one at a time. Unfortunately, in this file explorer, you can't shift click for people that are used to clicking on one, shift clicking and highlighting a bunch. So one of the disadvantages, I haven't found a workaround for yet, but we can drag all these in. You may not have to do this for the folks that just dragged in the .zip file. It might actually preserve those folders, which would be great. And then I had another folder called sections. Inadvertently, I put it inside. So one thing worth noting, when you have a folder, you can use the hold down control and click on each figure. Oh, okay, so it allows control but not shift. So for folks, I'm just reading along with the chat here, and someone has highlighted that if you hold down control when you click on something, you can highlight more than one thing at once. What just happened a second ago, which I was just going to quickly flag, is that when you have a folder highlighted and you go to add a new file or folder, it will get created within that folder. So it had created the sections inside the figures folder, and you can actually just drag stuff outside if you don't want it there anymore. And so now we're going to highlight all of these numbered files. So a little convention I use here is I like to have my files ordered in terms of the order they're going to actually appear in my main.txt file. So if you put a number in front of all your files, it will ensure that when you see things on the left here, they're not going to be ordered alphabetically. Well, technically it is alphabetically because the numbers are now alphabetical, but it just gives you some flexibility in terms of controlling how you'll see things on the left side here. So I can drag these into the sections folder, and this is the document that I was essentially showing you guys as a template that will be finished with when things are all done. So hopefully that's super useful to people who want to follow along. So let's go back to the main file I was discussing a second ago. And let's explore things one at a time. I've attempted to put comments where I can through everything so that if you have to revisit this at a later time, it makes it easier for you guys to know what's going on. So first things first, like I said, we can load a class file by calling it with /document class and then the name of that class inside the squiggly brackets. You don't actually need the file extension on the class. It knows that it should end in .cls, so you don't have to put it there. So I'll save describing what's actually in that class until later in the presentation, but just know it is going to be a bunch of stuff that tells it font sizes for various levels, whether section heads should be bold or not, whether they should be numbered, all those sorts of things. Yeah. So first things first, we have the input tag that I was describing before. This will go and get a section from my section folder and add it into the compiling of things. So by doing this, we're allowing ourselves to write the entire header section in this case and put it in, insert it into the main thing so that I can keep all of this messy header stuff on its own and not in front of the title page where I might want to explore just editing the title page. The use of this unskip function, I'll just remove it so people can see what goes on when I do that. It's for making sure that you don't have extra spacing up at the top of your document. So if I actually return this, it fixed things. So in some cases, when you load the .cls class, the section here, even if it doesn't have content that's loading on the page, it might add a certain amount of white space to the top of your page, and you can use the unskip to not add the default sort of minimum box size for adding this section. Next, we can see I have the begin document tag that we described must start and end. And then inside of it, all of the various sections that will be rendered on the page. You can also see, as we're going through examining this, every one of these, I'm going to have it start with begin with new page. So the introduction doesn't butt right up against the title page, and each section, as you're used to doing your lab reports, they start on a new page. And then some of the stuff you see on here as well are just me inserting some random text so it fills the page. So you don't have to be super concerned with this blind text. It just adds this random text we have here. So I guess the next thing to talk about is actually styling our document. So with our document, as I said, there's .cls files, and I'm actually using one created by someone else called Nature. This is a class that was created in 2004, and you can actually go ahead and find this. If I switch back to my browser, you can go ahead and find this on the internet. If I type in Nature Peter, let's just copy this whole section of text. we should be able to find that class template. I will include, oh, here it is. Sorry, I had it open all along. So here you can actually download this file if you, for whatever reason, delete this template. On this CTAN website, there's a lot of different classes. So you can actually go and get what people have created is sort of the formatting you might expect for given publications. So this one was designed for Nature. And it allows you to really quickly get off the ground and have something that looks like things should look. And also worth noting, sometimes certain publications will actually give you this .cls file because they want to standardize how all of the things look in their journal. So this makes it really easy to have people all have the same sort of looking papers by everybody loading the same .cls file. And then, so then the other thing with styling your document is there are packages. So some of these can include AS Math, which is for creating formulas. And another one might be Float, which is for making sure that your tables don't jump around on the page like you're used to with Word, where you go to type something and all of a sudden a title or an image or something is now moved to a completely new page. So that is a useful package as well. So we will explore all these included in the header file section in a moment. So essentially, sections, as I mentioned before, are a way to pull in content into your main file. So you can split things out and really keep things organized. They also have a nice thing that they inherit styles from the class section. So because this is a convention to use / section in LaTeX, it means that pretty much every .cls file you might get from anyone will always have something that gives attributes to this / section. So that could include numbering each section automatically. It could include making it bold, centered, all these different sort of things in terms of the headings on these. And then the other one that I think is quite useful is /vspace. And in this case, I'm showing a value of -1 m. M is essentially an equivalent to font size, but it scales with different properties of a browser. So it's useful for when people have need to make their browser able to scale. Like I'm sure we all have parents that maybe have set their font size on their phones to large. And how does the browser know to just load this font size bigger? It scales these M typings. So in this case, by using negative, we can actually remove space after a certain section. So let's hop back over to the browser. And let's go ahead and comment out a lot of these things. Well, actually, you know what? Let's just delete it. It'll be a little bit quicker. There we go. So I'm just recompiling things. We see that now I'm left with only, because I've removed the calls to all of those other sections, they are no longer part of the document, and we just have the introduction and the title page at the moment. So now if I go to the introduction section, we can see where I use that -v space. So let's make sure we have this on the page. And if I go ahead and comment this out and refresh the page, you'll notice that this jumped down a bit. So for folks that want to make sure that the sizing, the spacing after your headings is less without going in and actually changing the .cls file, you can do so by adding this tag. So let's go back to the main.text. And the first thing I want to talk about here is columns. So some people want to make their documents in such a way that there is more than one column, and it's not all just straight left to right across the page in one big block of text. So in this case, we're going to use this package called Multicolumns, which I've added in the header. And we're going to, again, like we saw before, there's going to be an opening tag and a closing tag. And the opening tag also gets an additional argument between these curly braces that follows, which tells it how many columns it should be expecting. And as I discussed earlier, I have an extra package call that allows me to add blind text. This won't actually be useful for you unless you're making just a random template that you just want to insert enough text that you can actually see things. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back over to our browser. And you can see these are the sections for the multi-columns that I commented out. When we recompile, you can see having them wrap the section makes it so that things are in 2 columns. If I also wanted to re-input, you can see that things autocomplete for folks that are used to using today's IDEs, and it'll actually like show you things that are in your file structure. So this makes it super easy to stay organized here. So here I'm putting in the methods section inside these multi-columns of 2. And you can see, unfortunately, I didn't add /new page. So like I said, things will automatically jump up into the previous page if you're not careful. So we add the new page command, recompile. And you can see it starts on a new page. And it too has the property that things are in 2 columns. So super useful that you can do that. And you can also, should you not want this section to be in multiple columns and you only want a certain section, you can put it outside of those tags. And you can see just like that, it's returned to taking up the whole page and is not in columns like the introduction section. Nice. So this sort of gets us to the start point that we've kind of now explored a lot of this structuring stuff. We now know that we can pull in documents into the main, we can compile things, and we can keep ourselves organized in terms of our file structure here to make sure that it's easily understandable to someone else who we might collaborate with. So that sort of brings us to the next section, which is all the different sort of content types that you might want to include when you're making a paper here. So first things first, let's go into the introduction section. And some of the things I'm going to introduce here are formulas. So people in financial math, this is probably the most useful thing you can use here. And it's all based on this package called AS Math. So once you have it imported, which I will show towards the end of the presentation, just to make the flow keep going with content, you can create equations by using the begin equation and end equation. Additionally, the double backslash allows you to separate lines in your equations. You can add _i to the underscore parameter makes it so that it becomes subscripted. So you can think that if I want a small I on a variable, that I would use _i at the end of the variable. And we'll see how this all works. There is the vector tag, which allows you to put the vector hat on top of any variable. There are left, right angle, and right angle, or left and right angle brackets. So the triangular brackets that you use for things like vectors, which are super useful. You can do fractions, you can do a number of other things. And the last thing that is, in my opinion, super useful and will make your profs really happy is if you use the /left and /right commands before brackets. And I have an example here on the right, what the difference is. On the top, we have using the /left before the open bracket starts and the /right before the closed bracket starts. And that actually makes it wrap all of the content. If you don't do that, you get these fractions that are actually larger than your brackets, and it looks pretty ugly. So you can do this trick, and I'm sure your professors will be super happy with that. So let's jump back over. For the sake of making things easier, if I undo all the changes here, no, okay. Let's real quick go ahead and grab the content back as it was for the main, put it in here just so that we can see everything. So let's explore the introduction page. So first things first, you can use the no indent tag to be able to remove indentation. And you can use the /text bf to emphasize in bold whatever is between the curly braces. So you can see a pattern here. Pretty much when something accepts an argument, you're going to put it inside the curly braces. And then we can see on the right side, that is actually bolded in the compiled version. Anything you add outside of that, it's just going to treat it as text and put it on the page. So you can see this is not bold or anything like that. It just spits it onto the page following the section you just did. And then there are also URL tags, which for folks that are used to HTML, this is kind of like the href. It allows you to hover over it. And if you want to link to something outside your paper, it actually allows it to be clicked upon and navigate there. When you add things on new lines inside this section, it will put things into a new paragraph. So if I all of a sudden started adding text here and I recompiled, it will add an extra, essentially paragraph. Actually, let's go back and remove, for the sake of things, making it easier to see, we'll actually remove the multi-column stuff. You can see there's a lot of useful IDE stuff where it'll highlight things in red where you don't want stuff to break. So you can see here, it has added a new paragraph and it has automatically added the indent. So if I also on this random gibberish text wanted no indent, I would add the no indent tag and it will put everything flush to the margin. So here we have, as I was saying, the most useful thing probably to the financial math folks in the chat. We have making an equation. So here you can see I use some of the many tags I was describing in that slide. If you are you want to look up something that I haven't showed you here, the easiest thing is just to look up different things for AS Math. And when you explore that package on the internet, it'll give you can look up pretty much anything that it supports. So if I wanted to know how to do fractions, I could look up how to do fraction in AS Math, and it will the documentation for AS Math will come up, and you'll be able to see that it is /fraction and it accepts 2 arguments. You can do tons of things in here. As you can see here, we've done a Riemann sum. We've used the underscore to denote the putting things as a subscript. In this case, it gets used as the lower bound, and then the squared gets used as the upper bound for the Riemann sum. And as I discussed before, we even have using the underscore on this vector, and we're giving these variables vector hats as well. What else did I? Oh, and I touched on this earlier. You'll make your profs really happy if you do the example 3 here and you do not do example 4, where the brackets don't actually span the entire equation. And we do, to remind you, we do that with putting slash left before the left bracket and slash right before the closing bracket. Yep. For everyone that wants to just jump in and ask questions, this is going to be a lot of sort of me speaking. So just jump in and interrupt me at any point or put it in the chat. And I'd love to go back and forth with questions here.
Hi, so my question is, you removed the columns on the main.text, but it changed it in the introduction, which I thought they were separate. Like if you just made the introduction .txt, it didn't have the columns in that. So it somehow read the main, even though you're only in the introduction.
Yeah, so that the whole idea of this sort of thing is that the main is for applying things to the things that get pulled in. So when I do compile here, even if I'm doing it on this introduction section, it's compiling the whole document. So it's trying to compile this main thing, regardless of which section of text I'm looking at or editing. So
what if you are just working in one area? You don't want to recompile the whole thing. You just want to recompile as you're going along to make sure it looks right. Is there a way of doing that?
It will always recompile all of the sections, I believe. I don't know if there's anywhere in the settings to only compile the page you're on. Very good question.
What if you had, I'm sure some of these research papers are hundreds of pages. You wouldn't want to recompile just to make sure one little paragraph you did looks correct.
Well, the recompile time, I'm not really sure how long it is when you get to hundreds of pages, but it should be sort of on the order of, a couple seconds. Like, I don't think this ever scales that badly in terms of how you're the recompiling. So, but if you only wanted to examine just a section and you wanted to avoid some of those problems, you could just comment out things at the upper level and not pull them in until you want to compile the final thing. So I could comment out all of these sections as you're sort of suggesting. And now, as I'm working on just one section, I only have to worry about the compile time of pulling in these first two sections. So that could be a way to get around this sort of stuff. But I think most of the time you won't have an issue with things being really that slow. Yeah, I haven't ever ran into a situation where the compiling took a super long time. And to your other part of your question here, so this is where the idea is really powerful, that you wrap things in start and end sort of brackets. In this case, we're using the multi-column functionality. By wrapping that, we're wrapping this whole section. So this is essentially equivalent to if I had put those columns at that text at the start and end of this file. So I can actually go ahead and show you that. Let's go ahead and just, for the sake of things, copy this, go into the introduction. Let's put this end tag. Let's grab this begin tag. Let's put it at the start of the content. And if I recompile, it should put it into two columns, as we see here. So it's doing all the stuff I have in there and not you can see at the main level, we had the blind text happening. So if I actually wanted that stuff to be in the multi-columns, I could put it here. And now we've put it multi-columns to everything that is between these two tags. So you're more than welcome to put these type of tags in if you feel more comfortable doing it in the actual page you're doing it in. For me, I just like to put things at the main level because it makes it really clear that that's a formatting choice as opposed to, you know, a content choice in this section. So hopefully that answered your questions there. And yeah, so let's get on to the next section because people are already asking about tables. Let me look at, so the time is pretty much run out here. We can go as long as we need, but maybe I just start jumping to sections people want to find out about, and that way things are covered. So someone here is asking about the tables. So I'll quickly jump to that slide. So tables and figures are pretty similar. We use the /begin and /end on either a table or a figure. There's options for centering, adding captions, and labeling. Labeling is specifically so that you can call it from other places in your document pretty easily. And the last thing that's super important to know here is the square bracket H means place the table, it's for the word here, and it's where, place the table exactly where it appears in the text so it doesn't jump around on you. So if we jump back to things on the browser side, and hopefully I've fixed things in the main file. Oh, need to uncomment. Let's go ahead and uncomment. Which section was it in? The results section that I put these in. So if we go ahead, worth noting real quick, as you add things to this document, they will be numbered automatically. So you don't have to worry about putting in this number 4. If I was really quickly to add another equation, it will know to add it itself and number it itself. So that's one of the benefits of using something like LaTeX. We automatically get this sort of numbering by using these equations that it knows that they should be numbered as they appear in the document. So going back to the results section, because people wanted to see about tables. So this is something that you're going to have to just sort of get used to in terms of the structuring of tables. It has a lot of like starting and ending tags within them to define the header part of it, to define where all the cells are and stuff like that. You'll be able to get up and running pretty quickly because if you're using Overleaf, that is, because if you start auto-filling with begin table and you click on it, oops, and then we click on the autocomplete feature, it will actually try and fill in the whole structure for you. So that makes it really quick for you to get up and going with things like that. The things you need to know about this are it takes an argument for knowing how many columns it should get with C's in the tabular section here, begin tabular. So if I add another C here and I recompile, it will know that I should have, oops, I didn't do that as a lowercase c. It should know that it should get another one. No, it's going to complain because I don't have enough arguments. It'll be easier for me to show by reducing the amount of C's. And here I'm removing, as I go, all the amount of cells down a single column. So I removed 1 C, so there'll be 1 less header. And now the ands separate cells here, and I have the same amount matching to my header. So when I recompile, instead of having 5 columns, I should have 4. The // indicates where it should start the next row of them. This H line is for adding lines in between the rows. And these upright lines in the sort of heading row are what dictate how the vertical lines in the table should be. So if I wanted, for example, an extra line after the first column, I refresh it with this straight line after C, and it automatically adds it here. So you can see I've done double here on the outsides, which give it this nice sort of doubled effect on the outside. and you can do the same after the heading column, adding 2 H lines to do the same thing horizontally. After your tabular section, which is the table itself, like the table content, you have options. You can put in a caption and a label. The caption is so that it dynamically adds this here. And you'll notice that I did not write the word table 1 in here. That's because it knows it's a table. So if it's the first table in the document, it will call it table 1. And then this label here is for being able to reference it within a body of text. And then that makes it here clickable, and it'll take me to that page. So if I was referencing from somewhere lower down in the document, I can insert this ref, and hovering over the number will then take me to the page the table is actually on. So super useful to label your tables and then reference them. Any disadvantages to making it in Excel and exporting it seems a bit tedious. It's just for being able to get the font sizing. There might be someone might have come up with a way to do this to just turn an Excel into this sort of stuff. There might be a program, or someone might have made a widget or for something online. But the benefit of this is just to be able to get the styling of your document. So if you find it tedious, you could just do it in Excel and then export it as an image and include it as a figure that way. But yeah, this is just so you get that sort of look that you're probably used to seeing, where the tables look a certain way in academic publications. I guess next, just real quick, you can do the same thing with figures. They have the same sort of structure, that it starts with a figure tag, ends with a figure tag. You can put centering to make sure it's centered, and then you include a graphic, and this square argument it takes before where to find the things is actually the scale that you might want things at. So if I actually change this to 1, it would be the full size of the image. You'll see that it didn't fit nicely onto the page. So I have actually scaled it down to fit it on the page. Okay, so let's real quick, yeah, since time is running out, let's just real quick uncomment everything, and I'll just go over what people want to know as we go. So the way you include references, I'll jump to that next because that is currently in the questions, is you insert a bibliography. Again, this is this is a default thing in LaTeX. So I'm telling it to go get this reference.bib, which appears here. I'm telling it a style based on being able to do this is package based, I believe. So I think I installed a package that allows me to pick which style I want, but it might be actually just part of Overleaf as a whole and being able to pick Nature Mag. And then adding this no cite will automatically include all of your citations on this page. If I do not include this and refresh it, everything should theoretically disappear, because it only wants to include stuff from the .bib file if they've been cited in the main text. So if I went to somewhere here and went /cite, and then I pick one of these citations I have in the .bib file, and I refresh, it will put it on here. So if you actually cite things, it will put only the ones you cite. If you want everything, you put in /no cite star, and star just means everything. So no citation required for everything. So put every citation in, and it puts them in here. So yeah, I think we've covered almost everything in here that will be required. So quickly, I'm just going to touch on how I got this .bib file. So this is actually where the Zotero comes into play. it allows you to export these sort of files. So if I actually show you what Zotero looks like here, hopefully you don't hear my dog whining in the background. If I open this, you can see that I'm able to add citations into here. So if I want a citation from perhaps a page, you can go find any paper. I have the Zotero sort of Chrome extension installed. And if I go to export bibtext, you see the content that should go in the .bib file. I can highlight it. I can go to my Chrome extension. And when I click on it, it asks me where I would like to save it to. And then I hit done. Sorry if this is a bit quick, but just make sure that we're doing things accordingly. And now you'll see that I actually, before I had 3 things in the Zotero application, now I have 4 in this machine learning folder. From there, you can actually do export library, and it will export this file type, or you can right click on any folder and I can do export collection, and that will just export the folder instead of all of your references. You can hit OK, and then you can upload that file to your Overleaf, which I had done. Do we have any other questions that people would like me to get to that are more pressing? Just watching the chat here. So yeah, you can see that it exports things like this that we just saw from the web page, and it'll put them all in here. Last little thing I'm going to touch on is the header file here, which I was talking about is a thing I'm not actually loading as visuals on the page. Here I have included a ton of packages for you guys so that you can just copy this header every time pretty much, and you get a lot of things for free, sort of like the math package I was talking about that allows functions and a number of other useful things. If you want to know what they do, I've commented them all here, and I think I've also added a link to where you can find documentation on them so that you can read more on what they actually do and how you use them. But this sort of should hopefully get you up and running in terms of having a ton of packages that give you a ton of functionality. So one we really touched on was the AMS math. Another one that is super useful is the hyperref stuff. And I even today used the float package along with table so that when I use the square bracket H in the opening tag of the tables, it makes sure that they land on the page exactly where they appear text-wise, and they don't jump around like you're used to in Word. When you move around an image, the text moves all around. So hopefully I touched on a lot of useful stuff. Yeah, and hopefully you guys can take all of this stuff for yourself and be able to use it in just use the template and fill it out how you'd like to, and learn how to do new stuff yourselves. Yeah, hopefully, yeah, everyone liked it. Seems like everyone thinks this is useful.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Jordan. That was a very wonderful presentation, actually.
Yeah, sorry about
very
going a bit over.
No problem. It was really good. Any last questions for Jordan?
Oh, what I should do is, some people will not have the chat. They'll be watching the video afterwards. So I will actually go ahead. Can we, what's the best way to do this for sharing that? Can someone paste back the, I'll actually scroll up in the chat. I think here's the link. So I'm actually just going to put it in my address bar so folks in the video can see where to get all of the template stuff.
Oh yeah, we will include that when
okay, cool.
Just as a reminder for everybody, we if you want to refer back to this recording, we will be emailing you guys a copy of the video and also the link to everyone who has RSVP'd. There we go. It should be big there for whatever reason. If you only have the video, not the link, you can take the
time to copy this out, unfortunately.
Jordan, there's a question. It's, how did you got the fire switching between the apps?
Oh, okay. So, okay. That is actually just something I have for anyone who wants to do this sort of presentation style where you can switch between things without having to do resharing of screens. You can use OBS, Open Broadcast Software. And in OBS, what I'm essentially doing is I'm making a bunch of different scenes. I'm controlling them with buttons on my desktop, so it flips between what it's sharing, and I make OBS output a virtual camera. So what I'm doing on the Zoom side is I'm sharing what it thinks is a second webcam as my screen share, and OBS allows me to send a feed of these different things I'm controlling as like an imaginary webcam that is then being shared. And so within OBS, you can actually add transitions every time you change a thing. So I already had OBS set up for a different purpose. So that's why I didn't want to take the time just deleting out all the transitions and stuff. So that's why it was a little over the top with the transitioning. Yeah, so definitely recommend OBS for folks that also want to use it to record things. There's like screen shares and stuff. It can also record, so, and it's free.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jordan, for giving us a very informative workshop once again. And thank you to everyone who came through. And yeah.